and part 2 of our overview of Cognos Analytics 11.1. For those who have attended the part 1, well, thank you. And those who have not, well, it's available as a recording on our event webpage. This time joining with me is Rex Washburn. Rex, you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Rex Washburn. I lead our analytics and data practice as well as our solution architecture practice. So I'll be sharing some of the new features in CA 11.1 around administration for you guys this afternoon or this afternoon.
Great. Thank you. So I'm Francois Russ, also part of the analytic team focused on solutions and also adoption. I'm a Cognos veteran, many, many years, a couple of decades, basically, and I was involved in the beta group testing Cognos Analytics 11.1 as it was introduced and incepted. We're going to focus today on what we didn't look at on the first portion of this webcast. We're going to look at the reporting module, which just a brief overview. There's been some enhancements there, and then also focus on the administration, which Rex will be presenting and leading that part, and finally on deployment, as the Cognos Analytics 11.1 introduces a lot of new deployment features, which we believe you need to plan ahead for and really do it right. We're testing if we can do a poll here. So I don't know if you're, as you joined the WebEx, you may see a panel on the upper right, or it could be at the lower right of your screen. We'd love you to respond to those questions that we put in there. It just helps us. We can see in real time, and it helps us, put things in context and follow up. There will also be a Q&A portion at the end of this webcast. But if you can answer this, I think there's 3 questions. That'd be awesome. So we're going to get going. Just a bit of a repeat of what I introduced in the first portion, the analytics lifecycle, where we're all going through, as we deploy solutions like Cognos and platforms like Cognos, this lifecycle comes in play. Which is pretty common. Users are going from analyze with reporting and then try to bring some prediction to this, make better business decision. So use this platform to help them throughout their analytic cycle. Cognos Analytics 11.1 as focused, of course, has always been a major reporting platform, but this new release kind of expands it to provide more in-depth analytics to the data explorers and data analysts and the data scientists, which you see here highlighted at the lower right part of this cycle. So this has been the point of focus, and to do that, they also IBM also introduced the AI. A lot of vendors and platforms have introduced AI in the past 6 months. Into their platform, whether it's through a search engine that's highly scaled and very smart, or whether it's other ways to help you achieve more productivity. IBM, what they did is they introduced a lot of the Watson smarts that you may have been familiar with on the Watson Analytics platform, and kind of embedded them into the user experience to really help you all the way from the data preparation to being able to use machine learning to enhance the quality of the insight that you are looking at. So really elevate your experience into more of an analytics-driven experience using AI smarts embedded into the BI platform. So we're going to look at report authoring a little bit. There's not that much to show here, but I will show just a few highlighted features while I'm creating a report. Just a summary before I get into the demo. They really revamped and simplified navigation. So you'll see, for those who are familiar with Cognos Analytics, it has kind of the same look and feel, but there's a lot more navigation there's buttons, and the interface is more. It gets easier to navigate into, and it just creates better productivity for the end user authoring reports. Better contextual menus, so the menus that pop up when you click on something or make a lot of sense based on the next action or that you'd like to do. I highlighted the third one. The object placement is probably the best feature I've seen. For those who are used to creating Cognos reports with either Cognos 10 or even Cognos Analytics, sometimes it gets tricky to really make sure that you put the object at the right place. So there's a smart that they introduced to help you be much more productive as you add new objects to the report. And there's other features. I'm not going to read all of them that I'll be showing while I'm creating a report. So let's do that. I'm going to switch to my Cognos Analytics interface, and I'm going to start right here with the report authoring module. Same module that I used in the previous demo. I'm just going to create a report out of this now. So first thing you notice here is we have kind of a menu bar here on the top, which has those navigation features that I told you about. For example, you can use sort of a breadcrumb interface here to navigate through your report, to your queries, different classes, or to the page. You can actually add a new page here if you want to as well. And you have access to a few common features that are typically used a lot, like the lock and the unlock features if you want to do insertion of new objects within another one, and also switch from page design to page preview and then settings and parameters, and properties. So all that is on the top bar, which I think makes it a lot easier to navigate compared to even Cognos 11 previous version. I'm going to click on a three dots here, a little ellipsis, which gives me right away here access to the headers and footers. So I don't have to go in the menu to do that, and I'm going to create a header and a footer to my report. So you're familiar with this probably if you already use Cognos Analytics. I'm just going to add a title using the text button here. And one of the cool feature here is this. Speaking of this context menu, I have a new style menu item here, and this is very productive. It allows you. At first, it could allow the organization or IT to create some style that everybody can use, or on a personal note, I can create my own styles as well. There's already some styles that were created for this demo here. Usually this will have nothing here underneath and you just have to create a new style. But in this case, I'm going to just pick the one that was created for header and just apply it. And then on the next object, I will be creating a new style. But this is a great feature to be able to create styles, reuse styles, edit them, make them standard across the organization, and therefore increase productivity. So next, instead of using this plus, which would allow me to add a visualization and different report objects or text item, I'm going to go straight to my data. And I don't know if you remember the singleton. A lot of users were confused about what a singleton was, and some other didn't want singleton and end up having one. But here in this new release, if I drag a column, such as quantity sold, you'll notice that instead of a singleton, which the singleton are gone now, it allows me to pick and choose where I want to drop this object. So you see here I've got 3 placements. So that's the smart placement capability that I was talking about. If I release the mouse right here, it's going to put it on the upper left. And instead of a singleton, it is now just a pure metric or a number, in this case, but it's just adding this column simply in my report. I can do the same thing with another measure here, and you'll see again the smart placement feature kind of suggests places to put it, and it keeps in mind that the report is 100% wide. And if you drop it here, it's going to split it into 2 sections. And then if I drag another one, like let's drag margin. Again, it will split it into 3 sections of even size based on, how you set up the report as far as margin and the width of the report. And finally, I'm going to add my revenue as a 4th measure. So very smart at placing object. You still have control over if you want to move something to the right or to the left or center, but it's just a nice, productive way to, start building the report and have it take shape quickly. So I'm just going to use more of a traditional feature here and put it all in the center. So next, I'm going to select anything in my report like quantity sold, and there's another new button in this release that allows me to navigate. This used to be available on the upper right. It was a little confusing. Now it's right on the top menu bar. Allows me to go from that quantity sold text to the table that makes up that quantity sold and highlight it. And now I'm going to create a new style because I don't have any style for this. As you can see, I have header, list column, and rows and page header. So let's create a new style for this whole metric table and call it, let's say, number. And this new style interface or window, dialog box allows me to select the section that I want to create the style for. So I'm gonna select table header now and make sure my text is white for the header. Center is fine. I also want to change the size to be a little bit bigger, like 22. As far as the background color, I'm going to add a new background color, which I like this one here, set as a favorite so that's available later. And it shows you a preview of what you're selecting. Now, I'm going to select the whole table now as an element, and I want to have a background, a border around it, just like this, for example. I could have picked my favorite color too. There we go. So my preview looks fine. I'm going to save the style as a number inside here, and I'm going to apply it to my report. So now I've got my quantity sold, and just to make sure it looks good, I'm going to switch to page preview. There you go. And now I'm going to select, as you can see, it said the same thing here than in the previous release. I can select the whole thing with control and apply that style called number to my 3 other objects. So very quickly I was able to do that, much quicker than the previous release. So now let's add a visualization. Again, navigation has changed a little bit. I just have to click on the tool button here and then add a visualization. The smart placement shows up again. You see, I got 3 places I can put it on. I'm going to drop it right here on the left side. There are quite a few visualizations available. For those who've seen the first webcast, I focused a lot on some of the exploration visualization and get data science focused visualization. They are available here as well, some of them. I like the bullet chart. It's a great way to show, plan targets with actuals and thresholds. You'll find interesting also that there is a waterfall chart as well, which allows you to show if you have a P&L, for example. It's a great way to show, metrics exploding into cost and cash on hand and things like that. So waterfall is a great chart for that. There's a word river now to show concentration of elements within a category. And a few others more advanced as well, like the floating bar, floating column. So I'm not going to select all of them, or neither one of them. I'm just going to do a traditional clustered bar for this demo. So here I'm going back to my data elements, and I'm going to drag what I want as a bar. I'd like to see my product line. I'd like to see my quantity sold as a length. And since I'm in preview mode, everything takes shape. And I'm gonna add here as a color my year. There you go. And there's a new feature here called extra data. That's very useful. I'll show you towards the end of my demo why. But it allows you to add some fields to your chart that will not show up in the visualization, but can still be used for filtering, for example. So I'm going to use, let's say, my loyalty status and my coupon response as extra data. So again, it doesn't affect the visualization, but it can be used as smart cache filtering later, which is a new feature. I'll show you that when I run the report. So that's it for my bar chart. I'm now going to add another visualization. Okay, right here. And put it right here. And this time, I'm going to select a map and add some location fields to this map. So when you select a map, you'll notice there's also a new pull-down menu here that allows you to select from region and where you want to focus, region versus point versus, in this case, latitude, longitude. So this way you have much more control and, in one single interface on what you want to populate the map with. So now I'm going to pick my postal codes as my location for my points, and my point size will be shown with will be affected by my quantity sold. My color will be affected by my revenue. I could add extra data to that as well. So I'm going to select my map, remove the legend, just takes a lot of space here that I don't really need. And if you remember on the previous webcast, I showed you a feature called clustering. I'm going to enable it here. So what clustering allows me to do is save a lot of real estate by, showing you the concentration of my, for example, in this case, my points. And as you zoom in or out, you can see a cluster number as opposed to, a lot of little dots, which was very useful if you have a lot of data and a lot of categories also to navigate to. So that's enabled. Now sizing, usually if you want to change the size of those two, you have to go into the properties and pixel perfect, select what you want to, how do you want to size this. Well, here now I have I have a way, if I can get to it, okay, to size by dragging the actual object. You see here, so I wanted 60%, which will make the other one 40%. So very, very easy way to just resize your object in preview mode if you need to. And finally, I'm going to go back to my tools and add a list here at the bottom. Again, I can already tell the report if I want it centered instead of doing it later. And then I'm going to populate my list with a few items. Let me control select those right here and just add them to the list, and it will be centered. I'm going to apply to my list a style. There was already one here. Actually, you know what? Let me just select my columns, my column headers, and select my list column style, which was already, let's say in this case, created by corporate or by IT, so it's available, and do the same thing here with my list row. So very, very productive, very easy way to have some corporate standards and branding. And for those who are familiar with are working with the Cognos 10 or Cognos 11 earlier release, I'm sure you realize how more productive you can be by applying some reusable items like this. Now, if I switch, instead of running the report, I'm just going to switch out of edit mode to show you what the report looks like at runtime, and wrap up with this nice cache filtering feature, which at runtime users can select a chart, for example, click on the filter button, and this allows you to filter your chart by all the either the columns that are part of the visualization, or if you remember, we added those extra values or extra fields, extra data to the visualization. So it allows me to do some selection, that will affect this visualization. This filter will be cached. You can clear it at any time, and it's part of the report at runtime, and you can do a save as at that point. So it's pretty neat. Users love that. Allow them to do some extra filtering to the report without having a prompt box or a filter box, part of the report which uses some real estate. So great feature to use if you want to deploy some more flexibility, self-service flexibility to users. So that's it for this short overview of the reporting feature or reporting module. There's not a lot more to this. I mean, there's a few items here and there. I think performance of the report at runtime has been enhanced greatly with caching as well. But this kind of wraps up my part of the demo. I'm going to switch it to Rex at this point for the administration. Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. Rex, your turn a little bit later. I got one more thing I wanted to cover here. Let's talk about deployment. One of the things that Cognos Analytics 11.1 introduced is more ways to present data to your end users, right? One of the ways you can deploy is the traditional Framework Manager package. For those who are on Cognos Stand, you're very familiar with that. Cognos Analytics still supports Framework Manager packages, and they are, I think, still a nice enterprise metadata layer of your modeling. It also maps your Power Cubes if you still use PowerPlay out there, and also other OLAP sources. You can have full security applied to the Framework Manager package, whether it's row, column, or object. So it's pretty powerful, but it is considered legacy. IBM said they will not probably further enhance Framework Manager, but it's always going to be supported. There's no plan to phase it out at this point. Now, data module is something that Cognos Analytics 11 introduced. It is all, cloud-based. It's the GUI is a web browser, and it's a more modern way to prepare your data. It's also a little more business-friendly, which allows business users to also create their own data prep modules if they want to. Maybe it could be for one use case, for example, that they want to analyze. There's some AI features that have been introduced, especially in the new release 11.1. So it also does, it gives you some capabilities, that are driven by some smarts, such as data separation and clustering and things like that. And you can also, in 11.1, apply security. I demonstrated that in the previous release, in the previous webcast, but you can apply, row, column, or object level security in the data module as well, just like Framework Manager. Then you've got the data set. Some of you may have played with that. A data set, I like to see it as it's a snapshot. It's stored in memory, in cache memory. There's a service running those data sets and making sure that they perform. The new release is handling a lot larger data sets. For those who are using other platforms for self-service analytics, such as Tableau and Qlik, data sets is pretty similar to those proprietary files that they use. It's a very predictive response time. Once it's in the cache, it's going to navigate and perform really well. But it has limited data manipulation. Once you bring it in there, once you bring the data as a data set, there's not much you can do with it as far as further preparing the data. And you can only do object security on data sets, so there's no row or column security on that. Finally, of course, the capability of uploading flat files has been introduced with Cognos 11, so users can upload data and make it part of their either data module or data set. Very limited data manipulation with CSV and Excel uploaded files, but you can still append those or replace those if you want to. And there's also only object and user security. So once you've got those four, let's call them data assets out there, I think it's super important to plan ahead how you're going to deploy it so that it doesn't become Wild West. So you've got your data consumers here on this animation I'm going to be showing, and you've got your analysts and scientists on the left side. Typically, when you turn on the switch on Cognos 11, you're going to end up with Cognos packages, or Framework Manager packages, which are mapping OLAP sources or relational sources, and you're going to turn on the switch on using those from the beginning, which is fine. Look at Cognos packages maybe as a legacy way to present your data. It's already in place. It's very enterprise and should be used. However, you're going to start introducing data module, which could be, in this case, in this example here, the data module are maybe a way to further prepare or present the data from your package to the business users by adding some more self-service features or enhancements to your data, such as location-based or if you want to do year-to-date, last year-to-date comparisons, then the data module has that feature, as I demonstrated in the previous webcast. So you want to introduce those with data module. And to further add complexity to this, a data module can merge multiple packages into one. Two data modules can be merged into one data module. So really, you can create very quickly a spaghetti deployment and bring some confusion if you don't plan ahead. So the way I look at it, try to look at a data module as a subject area first. And if you have a use case that is driving a lot of analytics and self-service, it's a perfect scenario to either enhance a package with a data module or even creating one from scratch. And as you introduce the data module, you can see some arrows pointing to the data analyst and the data scientist because you are enabling more use case, advanced analytics data shenaarios. Then comes the data set. Data set, like I said, in memory, it's cache. It can be scheduled to be refreshed whenever you want, on demand or on a job. And a data set can be created from both a traditional framework manager package where you can select the fields you want in there, and a data module. So again, it adds more complexity and potentially confusion, but if it's planned well, then data set is great because you can put like a subset, even a large subset of data into it, and it's going to be cached in memory for predictive response time as they create dashboard or further analytics. And finally, you get those flat files, which typically flat files will be very use case driven. Marketing may have a list of customers that want to join into a data module. They can upload a flat file, and then it will have to be merged into a data module in order to create some more advanced dashboard. But again, it's another component to plan ahead for. What you want to make sure is you prevent silos, first of all, because flat files and data set can create silos just like Excel can, and also try to prevent Wild West where everybody's got their own data world. So it's very important to plan ahead using security, governance, and capability to make sure that you prevent those. So we can help you there. This is where we probably have a lot of experience, having done a lot of projects already with eCapital. We'd love to help you plan this deployment as you really take advantage of the capabilities and enhancement of Cognos 11.1. Finally, so Rex, all yours now. Rex is going to talk about administration and show a little bit of those new features that will make the administrator's life a lot easier. Rex, take it away.
Okay. Francois, if you just want to, okay, you already passed sharing over. Brilliant. Well, thank you everybody for joining in. We will want to dive into some of the new features that are around administration and Cognos Analytics. IBM is slowly but surely moving everything from our old tried and true administration console into the new managed features that you'll see down here on the bottom here. So eventually, and I would say sort of rapidly based upon what product management is saying, we're going to see a lot of these features that we've just sort of come to always sort of open up the old 10.2.2 admin console showing up in here. They are, at the same time that they're migrating these features over, they're simplifying it, unifying some of the naming of permissions and such with what you're seeing in more CA11 versus the old 10.2.2. So they're trying to make the overall administration aspect of this a lot easier. It is far easier to train now as we're moving into it. Then we'll start seeing new features and functionality coming in. All right. One of the first things we sort of want to talk about as we're going into the presentation is basically the new user session logging that they have. if we go into Manage and we look at the Configuration tab, and this is one of the pieces of functionality that I am probably the most excited about, is we go into logging, and we'll see this Enable User Session Logging feature. There's a few little extra side aspects of it, like how long do we want to keep the session log files? Do we want to delete them after 48 hours? I would say definitely keep this enabled. You don't necessarily want to leave this on 24/7, but what this does right here is, let's say a user is having an issue, and we've all experienced this. The users are being challenged by some bug, and we get an email saying, "Hey, listen, Cognos isn't working." That doesn't give you a lot of insight. And even when the user is sort of advanced and they try to give you as much information as they can, they might send you screenshots. Often it's going to require us getting up, walking down to wherever that user is, if they're even in the same building, walking through what they're doing, and then we're still sort of struggling to figure out what's happening on the back end. Well, now as a user, if I want to, I can come in and say log my session. And all I have to do is turn this on, and now I'll have a log identifier that will show up in the cogserver.log file, so all the log files that are actually on the server. And you'll be able to, as an administrator, sort of parse through that log, look for this log identifier, and start seeing exactly what's happening to that user. Now, if anybody that's on the session has ever done sort of troubleshooting and trying to figure out what a specific user's having a problem with and what's going on in the background system, I mean, traditionally, you eventually get to the point where you would shut Cognos down, sort of rename or spawn a new cog server log or new log files, start Cognos, get them to make the error, depending upon how serious it was, and then you'd sort of have to sort of parse through that one file. Now we have a really easy way of going through and grabbing this log identifier. One caveat on this, you basically, once you've gotten done working with the user, definitely have a quick web session, go back to them and make sure session logging is turned off. It's going to be one of those settings that users will quite often forget to re-enable or get rid of for us. Some of the other things that they've added, which are really intriguing, and we'll get to a whole lot of these as we go through. Hopefully we'll have enough time for it all, is routing rules. Now, I'm not sure how many people have used routing rules within Cognos. The brilliant thing about this is if you're in a multi-dispatcher setting, or you have multiple Cognos sort of servers in your cluster, you can route different reports or different data needs or different groups or different roles to specific servers or clusters of servers. If you're not familiar with that, just where you set up the server group, you still have to go into the old console. Not everything's been moved yet, but you're just going to drill down to the dispatcher, and we're going to go ahead and look at the properties of this. And if this is getting too technical for anybody, I apologize. Let me know, and we'll sort of go up to a higher level. But basically, this is always the piece that I get a lot of questions on this. This little server group option at the top level of the properties of the dispatcher, you can type in any name for this that you want, right? So just for fun, we'll call this Bugs Bunny. The administrator happens to have a sense of humor. Now, this will take effect within just a few seconds within the system. So I have a routing rule, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to say, let's do a new data tag. All right, and I'm going to just call this demo, and I'm going to look for some tag contents here. So I'm going to come up to this just workshop, and I have a data module here, and I just go ahead and select the data module, and I'm going to say, okay, create this. So now what I have going on is I have a data tag, and anytime I can easily go in and say select demo. I can add extra tags to this if I want, or extra data to it if I want to. Now, anything that's run against the webcast data module is going to be routed, right? I have the option of routing based upon groups. So let's say we don't want, during a certain period, like towards the end of the month, we want accounting to always have plenty of resources to run their reports. So we go ahead and create an accounting group within Cognos. We can then route based upon that, or we can say anybody who's a mobile user is going to get routed. So we can use the mobile user role, and route that to a specific dispatcher. But in this case, it's going to be data-based as far as routing, and this is probably the most common, groups being the second most common. My favorite is, you can always route like the executives to a specific dispatcher, set of dispatchers, and make sure they're getting their reports for accounting or whatnot. Then we're going to come here and we're going to say, we're going to look for a server group, and apparently it has not found my server group yet. So we'll just come back in here and see if it's going to find Bugs Bunny. Oh, brilliant. It's not refreshing. So let's go back into this. Let's see, close our routing rules, go back to manage, configuration routing rules. No, routing rules are not refreshing. Let's see why that could be. Bugs Bunny should be there, and I just didn't hit OK. All right. So if we come back in, we'll go ahead and hit our routing rules one more time. Always the joys of doing a demo. You always have a few odds and ends that don't play the way you want to. There's Bugs Bunny. And we'll take our demo. So now if I add this dynamically without us doing anything specific, anything that's routing against the demo group is going to go to Bugs Bunny. Now, let's say we have extra data modules that we add in, or data sets or whatnot. I can easily come up, go into my content, and then find like another set of data, and we'll go ahead and now anything that runs against those two data modules is going to be routed against this dispatcher. This is a single dispatcher environment. In here, we can sort of look at our overall configuration, our dispatchers, and the number of services. So if we actually did have all three dispatchers, these are two of these are just legacies that are sitting around. We could literally sit there and say, okay, you route to here, you route to there, and everything would be sort of easily and dynamically routed. This becomes really helpful as you're scaling your environment as well. You can add slightly smaller servers. They don't always have to be in parity. So definitely keep this in mind as you're going through and building out your environment. Think of your end users when you think of your infrastructure. Right, some other features that I want to look at are around the data side of things. So one thing that as you upload data files, and Francois did a great job of showing all the options you have. If you are going to have a multi-dispatcher environment, like we were just referencing routing rules, you want to have one single location for everything to route to. Now, that would normally be like a shared drive on one of the servers, or it could be a shared drive on a SAN or something like that. Now, there is something to be aware of. When you're in a multi-tiered environment, you need to basically, on each of the local environments, you need to create symlinks that will point to that file share. So what it's really looking for is when I do something other than ... Let's say I had a folder that was, C:/data files, right? Well, that's local. But if we want to basically use a multi-dispatcher environment, we're going to have to create symlinks and share that out. Now, that's something we can definitely help you with. There are tech notes out there. It's just a matter of how the OS is exposing itself to Cognos that requires us to do that setup. Now, you do have an ability to also decide how much data your users can upload and how much the limit of data that's stored per user. So right now you see by default this comes out and it's sort of like, you know, they're equal. I usually recommend that you set this to something lower. Don't give your users a 500 meg you know, upload limit and then say that's all they can do. You're going to quickly start getting questions. Try to sort of target this and be strategic about it. You can improve performance by removing encryption on data files, but obviously if you're uploading any kind of sensitive data, you want to go ahead and have encryption enabled. All right, so nothing really new on security. There is the ability to sort of set up a log out redirect URLs and log in redirect URLs, which is pretty handy if you want to bounce people back to your intranet or whatnot. Now, one of the other things that IBM has added is the ability to look at capabilities, and this was traditionally always in Cognos administration or security. If you're an administrator, you're familiar with this. This is where you sort of break down and can in a very detailed way explain set what people can and cannot get access to. Now they've made it a little bit simpler. It's the same large number of capabilities, but the properties and the security as far as access is a little bit, well, actually it's much more simplified. You either have access to it or you can manage it. So in general, when you break it down, if you're looking at, for example, PowerPlay Studio, let's say you have that, right? You don't necessarily want to give it access to everybody. You might add in, for example, analytics users if your licensing allows it. The key thing with capabilities is make sure you keep in mind a couple of things. One, your licensing. It's very easy to open up a feature that's to everybody where they shouldn't have it, right? Two, make sure you sort of scale. So you saw the diagram that Francois provided, which had a lot of different ways going for working with data. Sometimes you want to sort of roll that out in phases. You can use capabilities to limit functionality and sort of isolate that down. Always go after these things in a very sort of strategic way. This is also where you're going to create, add capabilities to new roles. So you may want to see, if you're not familiar with capabilities and you've never worked with them, definitely use the new capabilities feature here. If you're an admin and you've been working with capabilities and roles for quite a long time, start getting used to it, and because this is how we will see our administration console moving over. All right. I know we're running short on time. I'm not going to go much further there. So, Francois, why don't you go ahead and take her back, and we'll go on to the next slide.
Thanks, Rex. Ryan, switch it back to me. Okay. I turned on the poll again. 17 of you have responded to the poll, so thank you. So if you haven't responded, it's back on. So we'd like to hear from you on what your environment plans are. So thanks, Rex. This is the summary of Rex's presentation, some of the highlights. I think the administration allows you for much more flexible deployment and scalable deployment. And we'd like to help you with configuring this either by going through this test drive offers that we have. We would like to help you. You don't have to spin up an instance of Cognos Analytics right away. We can help you with that. It will be a cloud instance to make it easier to use and turn on to start with. Cognos Analytics is now available, 11.1, to download and to install on-prem, but it may be easier to start with using the cloud option just to test a lot of those new features that are really changing the way you may deploy Cognos in the future. So we'd like to help you with a test drive, up to 5 Explorer users. We can do it at your office or remotely with you. We offer you mentoring. It doesn't impact your current install. We pick a use case, and roughly you can end up investing somewhere around $5,000 of consulting services and the users that we also introduce to this test drive. So think about it. This is a great feature, great offer. I would like to talk to you more about it. Rex also put together. Yeah, go ahead, Rex.
And there's just one more comment on that. We also have the option, if your use case is that you're not ready to look at cloud, or you're trying to do the security or whatnot, you want to keep everything on-premise, we can also work with you to set up a sort of a single server Cognos instance that's, call it a sandbox, whatever, for you to start test driving 11.1.1. And that way you can get used to the new features, especially Explorer. We can help you with how that ties out to licensing, how that ties out to rollout, how it ties out to data, and help you with that planning so that you can move to the latest and greatest version of Cognos and sort of, bring back energy to your Cognos install.
Thank you. And you put together an upgrade migration called ActionRex.
Yep. So just some ideas. If you haven't jumped on CA11, some things we wanted to call out right off the bat. The CA11 install is different from an architecture and install standpoint. 11.1.1 has made even further changes. So the latest 11.1.1 on-premise, actually all client installers have been boiled down to one. The server is one installer regardless of sort of where you're going, and then you actually have a piece of software that utilizes those packages for the install. So it's different from what we've been doing in the past. You also no longer have to do an install of a primary node and then add nodes to it, or the connect and install approach, as it was called in the installer package. So some changes just from the 11 to 11.1, but also if you have only been on 10 up to date, it is very different. And there's also really a different way to approach IIS or Apache when you're looking at the web tier. Really, you're going to be looking at the gateway from a single sign-on, or if you're having multiple dispatchers, you're exposing it externally. But it's essentially acting as what's called a reverse proxy. So the actual gateway components are on the dispatchers themselves. For example, for the sandbox I mentioned just earlier, you may not even install IIS. You don't need it anymore. It is helpful for specific architectures and deployments. As you go into 11, if you're still on 10, you really want to focus on DQM or dynamic query mode. If you're planning on moving to IBM CA in the cloud, dynamic query mode is required. So that is all JDBC driven. It does have quality of service checking. I know a lot of folks are still on CQM or the old query engine. The only thing that is still sort of running in the CQM space is if you're using Power Cubes. And there is an architectural approach for it. There's a few switches that you don't want to flip if you want to go that way. But for all of your reports, all relational, you want to do DQM. All the data modules, all the great stuff that Francois was showing, the new Explorer feature that's up there, that's all dynamic query mode, so you need to be ready to sort of take that on. Roll out everything in phases. Users will sort of get feature shock pretty quickly and won't know where to use what. We can help you with that. It's something we do a lot of planning sessions with, building out sort of BI excellence across the platforms. And even if you have other tools as well that you need to blend in with that, other analytics and visualization tools, we can work with you on setting up strategies on how you work with multiple tools. We just had a client that we took from 10 different analytics tools down to 2. And we were able to unify everything with their primary deployment node being Cognos Analytics with a few drops of another tool floating around. But the ROI on that was huge. And then whatever you do, as soon as you install Cognos Analytics, if you go for it yourself, theme it, make it look like part of your company. We've seen user adoption go up significantly just from theming, and it makes it feel like home. So if you're taking old Cognos look and feel away, give the folks a sort of a home to go to, and make it look like part of your company. And it's super easy to do. It's something that can be done in just a couple of hours. IBM's made it very, very easy. All right, Francois. I think that's about all we have on the call to action.
Yeah, so we'd love to help you. Again, it's a big milestone for those who are already invested in Cognos Analytics and those who haven't. It is a transformed way to deploy and consume analytics and data. So please we'll contact you as a follow-up, but we'd love to help you plan this upgrade and test drive Cognos Analytics 11.1. So thanks all for attending. Q&A, we have just a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes max for Q&A. If you have any questions that you wrote in the Q&A panel, Ryan, are you still there? If
hey,
you are,
Francois, we do have a question.
Yep. All right.
We do have a question in our chat panel. If you want to open that up and address that question really quick?
Yes, let's see if I can do that right here. Do I have to stop sharing? You want to read it to me? It may be easier that way.
Yeah, of course. The user asks, are you seeing an issue on the on-prem version where you're not able to get to the properties of a package? We are not able to, which will prevent us to going to this version. All other objects and the properties seem to be okay. I can also get you that user's contact info if we want to address them personally in follow-up.
Yeah, that may need some further dialogue. We need to understand where the package is coming from. There's got to be a reason why the properties are not available. It's probably not security. It's probably the version that it's coming from or some configurable parameters. Rex, you want to add anything to that? Nope. So I think that, if it'd be better to contact that user.
Yeah, I haven't seen that
add?
issue specifically. There are intermittent, in earlier versions prior to 11.1, we have seen some issues on occasion with aspects or objects that have been imported having an issue. So it is version dependent. It also will be based upon how you've imported the tools. A lot of times people are using deployment archives to move their content from the old system to the new. Quite often it's it's preferred if your content store is clean and stable to actually move the content store database itself and then sort of bring a copy of it live in the CA11 environment. But we'll be happy to follow up with you on that. It's not something I've seen pervasively throughout people's systems, and we've been doing quite a few upgrades to both from 10 to 11, and then folks that are on 11, helping them jump to 11.1.1. The Explorer functionality does take some planning, so I'll be happy to reach out to you.
All right, thanks. Anything else, Ryan? Any other questions?
That was the only one I saw come through. Does anyone else have any other questions?
All right. Well, we'll follow up with each one of you. Thanks for responding to the poll. Thanks for attending. Happy holidays to all of you, and looking forward to hear back from you or get some chat going. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.